Hi, we're upwind downwind paddling today from Hayling Island's West Beach. We're going out in a 14 knot wind with gusts of 20 knots. And I'm setting out first upwind so I know that I can turn around and easily get back to where I started. I do recommend only going out in an onshore wind or a cross-shore wind. Do not paddle in an offshore wind. In this case, I would end up being blown to France. I'm aiming to give you some top tips in this video for upwind and downwind paddling, either for when you have the experience to choose to do it, or for if you've gone out in the wind and not realised the conditions were going to be quite so challenging. One thing you can do is feather the blade, which simply means turning it at an angle so it slices through the air as you set up for your next paddle stroke. That way it prevents the blade from becoming a sail. Next we're looking at choking down on the paddle, which simply means I've moved my hands down lower onto the shaft of the paddle rather than having my top hand on the handle. This means that I can get lower to reduce windage, but also being closer to the water, I can increase the stroke rate. There's a slight crosswind here, and so rather than have to spend the whole time paddling on my left, I can use some corrective strokes that just help to bring the nose of the board back over towards the paddling side. So here I pitch the blade as I put it in the water and aim to pull the board back towards the blade. And then when paddling back on the left, I'm aiming to angle the shaft and pitch the blade so I'm pushing water away from the board. I can also trim the rail of the board to create more lateral resistance to the side wind. Relax and use your ankles, knees and hips to absorb the movement of the water beneath you. But if it all gets too much, you can kneel down. This will give you a chance to rest your legs, but also getting lower still will reduce the windage even further. You can choke down on the paddle shaft, and there are two alternative grips. Here I show the front grip. Both hands are facing the same way. And here I'm going to reverse my top hand into an alternative grip. I actually prefer this way on one side and the other way on the other side. You may get tired when you're paddling in the wind, and you're going to want to find different alternative ways to make life a bit easier, or to just simply change the muscle groups you're using. Here I'm swinging the hips forward and then sitting back down as I fall onto that paddle. It's just another way of gaining more power. Here we're looking at the core rotation, so I've turned my upper body towards the paddling side to gain reach and also to engage my core and use my upper body as efficiently as possible. Time to turn around now with some sweep strokes and then head on back downwind. You'll see today that we're lucky, we've got a few wind bumps. It's just wind swell, no ground swell, no great big waves, but just a bit of fun and a nice cruise back. Going upwind, I was managing to do just under 6 kilometers an hour, working relatively hard. Coming back here, just holding the paddle out like a sail, I was still achieving 7.5 kilometers an hour, not even paddling. So that just goes to show you with the wind assistance and the tidal assistance there, 0.8 kilometers an hour at that time of day. Here we're looking at the swell. Upwind downwind paddling is really good for the fitness, and it can be quite exhausting. The idea is you don't paddle furiously the whole time, you just rest in between and then sprint when you do have an opportunity to get onto a good bump. Go with that glide and see if you can link some bumps together. It may help you to adopt an offset stance. The bumps today aren't big enough to really need to go into a surf stance or anything like that, but an offset stance will just widen your base and give you a little bit more balance. I prefer regular footed, you may prefer goofy. Here we're going to have a look at a bracing stroke. You might use these if you've lost your balance slightly, or just simply so you can cruise along and maintain balance. The bumps may not be as big or exciting as on a dedicated downwind, but the logistics are a lot easier and you can just keep going upwind and downwind as many times as you like. Keep using your legs, really get low and drive back up using your quads and your glutes. Here we're looking at the SUP J stroke. For SUP we are literally drawing an upside down J by pitching the blade towards the board at entry and then drawing it down the rail laterally. And then swapping sides, we're angling the paddle shaft and pitching the blade so it pushes water out away from the nose and pushes the board away from the paddling side. We're going into the downwind section now, and I've got a graphic to show you the wave that's passed in front of me and the bump that I'm going to chase. As the nose lifts, I will paddle so I don't decelerate, and then I will sprint onto the wave behind, and that's the one I'm going to aim to catch. If the nose buries underwater, I can either leave the volume of the board to pop it back up in waves of this size, or I can step back slightly. It really will depend on the size of the waves and the board you're on as to how much and how fast you need to stand back. Too far back and you can stall the board. When carrying the board out, make sure you carry it on the windward side so that the wind doesn't blow the board into you. I hope you've enjoyed watching this video today. If you have, hit that like and subscribe button. Thanks for watching.